Doesn't mean the end of the conference, but there is spinning already going on. One reporter already talking about trading up with San Diego State and SMU, and I know that has to be trolling. That has to be trolling because there's no spinning the Colorado surprise. I'm sorry, there's just not. I don't care what you want to say about their brands in San Diego and Dallas and what those can turn into. Look, I've given SMU plenty of credit, San Diego State as well. I think that they've got potential to be great, and they could do really well with more money and more maybe exposure. We don't even know that, right? You just still don't have your TV deal. We don't even know what exposure they would have, but more money, certainly. How much more? We still don't know that either. That's also part of the problem. But, they can correct themselves, and they can plug a hole, and they can be fine. But, we'll see later on tonight. I mean, I don't know if you read it, but there's a meeting later on tonight, Pac-12 presidents, and everybody's going to be getting together and, I guess, discussing their expansion options and what all they need to take care of now at this point post-Colorado. And it'll be fascinating to learn what comes out of that meeting because it's obviously not one that they originally planned on having, but it's one that now they're being forced to have. And, it's really just a product of them kind of taking their time and just playing it California cool and thinking that, I guess, just all of this was propaganda. Well done, Endeavor, because you convinced them nothing was going to happen and you just swooped right in and grabbed Colorado. So, fascinated to know what I would love to just be a fly on the wall, right, of what that meeting is like with the Pac-12 officials. But, it would indicate that San Diego State and SMU have to be on standby right now. I saw one I don't know, I think it was a tweet that was talking about just how quickly because we know like with the 4 new schools and then with the LA schools, like it's taken them like a full on year, if not more, to get everything in a row for their departures to their new conferences. So how quickly could San Diego State just go boom, 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 boom? Not for this year, obviously. That's not the deal, but for 2024. So it's going to be a jam-packed, pretty quick process. I think especially when you consider that while you're doing that, the people you're talking with in the room are still dissatisfied and pissed off that Colorado bailed and that they still don't have a TV deal, nor know how much money they're making or where their games are going to be or how much is linear and how much is streaming. So you're trying to now move quickly and pivot and expand like you should have done over the last year at multiple different intervals, but you didn't. Okay, lesson learned. Now you basically have to because you're going to be at 9 teams. So you have to move on that, all the while crossing your fingers and making sure that when everybody says we're on board together, they're actually on board and there's not another Colorado looming that's going to torpedo you again, because who knows? I mean, who can say now that there's not, somebody getting a little itchy to jump based on what they do know or what they still don't know. And so there's a little bit of a double dilemma or a double trouble that's, going to be interesting to see how they navigate that and how quickly they can kind of get control or regain control of the situation.
Well, and look, they're all different along the spectrum of the 9 schools remaining, or actually we'll just say the 10 schools with Colorado. Colorado was the most likely to leave the whole time.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing. They were the one who, they knew that they had at home previously, that home would welcome them back. So they always knew that option was there, and they would be fine with that, especially given how poorly football-wise things went for them. And by the way, this is all happening. The Pac-12 is falling apart because the worst team in their league is leaving. Like, they couldn't even get the best teams happy, and the worst team got pissed and left. There was all that. But then you go, okay, so who's the next on the spectrum up the impatient for the TV deal line? We don't know who that is. And then we know a couple like Stanford and Cal are only going to leave in the, DEFCON 1 situation.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I don't think the Big 12 would extend an invite anyways. I don't think anybody has any interest. That'd be a Big 10 move or something.
But leaving the conference altogether, like that, they would only leave and say, we're leaving the conference when it's over, right? Or the Big 10 is the conference that comes for them. So yeah, there's so many different things that are going to happen over the next few days. By the way, if anybody was wondering what that Oregon meeting was about that they called last night, that was about Dan Lanning's contract.
Yeah. There were some people that had pointed that out, like, hey, this is not what you think it is. This is about Dan Lanning. But I knew that there was no way to probably corral that after the Colorado news, as I saw last night, just multiple different, like, hey, keep your eyes on and all that. And, yeah, I had seen from I don't know if it was John Wilner or somebody else that had said, no, this is about Dan Lanning's contract. So, yeah, that's all that turned out to be. It would be surprising if the Ducks had moved that quickly because they seem to be in a different position than Colorado where they kind of can scan the landscape and take their time, if anything. So, yeah, that was not a big letdown or a real shock because I had seen that a bit beforehand. I do want to go back real quickly to that quote that I was referring to about being surprised about Colorado. And I don't want to lay it at the feet of somebody who didn't necessarily say it. So it wasn't Kliavkoff that said it, but the point remains still overall. So John Canzano had said that one AD in the Pac-12, or one AD said of Colorado, last week they were at the table saying they were in and waiting to see the deal. And then Wilkin responded by, like, if anybody's saying they're surprised by this after all the last few months of everything that's gone on, and that's what I was referring to, is like, yeah, if you're an AD talking about Colorado moving, or you're Kliavkoff, or if you're anybody, quite frankly, involved in this, you're like, I can't believe it. How could you not? I mean, I guess it's hard for you to make the leap of like, oh, wow, they actually did it. But to be surprised in any way, shape, or form that somebody actually made the move, then, you shouldn't be shocked. And that's just, I guess, a job well done on the part of whatever information you were being fed that, allowed you to think that was never a possibility. But it was certainly always something out in the atmosphere. And to the point where people were like, just enough already, but there was smoke. And then there was eventually, it looks like some fire, as we'll find out here in about an hour officially. But so tonight the Pac-12 will get together and discuss their options. And I know in addition to, obviously looking at San Diego State and SMU and how they could get all that together and how quickly and what that would mean. And of course, there's still that whole TV deal thing that they have to get solved. There's also, still the burning embers of discussion about, now could they put together an alliance? And could them and the ACC get together? And are there going to be discussions? And what could that look like? And so I think it's all hands on deck, all options on the table if you're the Pac-12, whether it's expansion, it's scheduling, it's, making whatever change you need to make sure that you stay upright. And I don't like this for the fans. I'm sure there are plenty of listeners out there who had their interactions with Pac-12 fan like Ute Guy or, Buff Stampede or, something like that wasn't very fun because that's just social media. But in general, obviously the majority of people are just great college football fans, no matter where you're looking in the country. And for those who are just kind of minding their business and going about their business and they suddenly get gobsmacked by this and, maybe the conference they grew up loving or whatever is suddenly, in a little bit of a emergency situation. I don't enjoy that for anybody. Other than a couple of like, you kind of deserve that, but in general, I don't want that for just regular old, person like us who's just a college football fan, because it sucks, because we've seen it with the Big 12, and really just the most shocking thing is the fact that the Big 12 was able to make the strides that it made in a little less than 2 years to be in this position. Because if you had said on the day that Oklahoma and Texas were announced to the SEC and Brett Zorneman's report came out and then it was made official a few days later, that not only would they survive, but in 2 years they'd be bringing Colorado back and they'd be bringing in 4 schools prior to that, and they would be adding somebody else at some point in time. I don't think many people would have believed in Brett Yormark or the ADs or presidents to get that done, and they've gotten at least part of that done. I mean, they brought in 4 new schools. Looks like they're about to add a 5th and bring one home, and no doubt there will be a 6th at some point because you're not going to have a 13-team conference. So, who that turns out to be, or is it 14? Is it, do they keep climbing? I mean, is it, 15, 16? Like, what does that turn into? That's now, I think, the story for the Big 12. And so, a lot to unpack, a lot to still absorb, and a lot to learn later on tonight out of whatever comes from that Pac-12 meeting and whatever, we learn publicly from what's said behind closed doors, which will be something. We won't be completely in the dark, of course, but fascinated to know what that is. And now for the Big 12, make this Colorado thing official. sign them up for the 31.7 like everybody else, and they're just back in the swing of things starting in 24, and now start to, see, okay, what's this about UConn? What's this about any other Pac-12 school? But I do think that this is not one where you're just rushing to, like, by the end of the week, we need what are we at now? 13, and I don't mean we, but I just mean in general. 13 teams in the Big 12. So, I don't think 14's announced by the end of the week. I don't know about you. But, hey, there's been plenty of surprises.